Indeed, we were told that we have to keep our presentations very, very brief, and I'm really tempted to take the whole time from now onwards, but I cannot do it. The reason is that I really worked with great passion on this subject, and when Adil Najm Sahab called me about this event, the whole thing was reawakened and rekindled in me. Anyway, I will try to hold myself back and only do three things. First, I want to make a quick observation. Second, I will give you a little sort of biographical account briefly of my involvement in this whole question of the environment. And finally, I'll say a few things about my findings. As for the last section, which is the most important, I will only tease you. I cannot go into the details. It's only a glimpse of what I found in the literature that I looked at. Now, as for my observation, let me just say that while in this whole question of the environment and ecology, a lot of work has been done in terms of planning and in terms of policy making, in terms of making governments aware, in terms of NGOs working and governments making plans and so on and so forth. And also, I think that on the other side, on the technological front, people have been working how to conserve water and how to conserve electricity and so on and so forth. But I think that one aspect in which I'm interested, because this is my trade is theory, the doctrinal and the philosophical and theoretical aspects have not been looked at very much. And that is what I have been doing in terms of attitudes to nature, in terms of philosophy of nature, in terms of the philosophical and ethical grounds of our relationship with the environment. And the principles on which a kind of a doctrinal ethical philosophy can be erected. This is the kind of thing that I do. So my work is really theoretical and foundational and doctrinal. Now, as for my involvement, the second point I wanted to make is that I was part of a conference by accident at Harvard. Kareem Saab, I think, was there too many years ago. There was a conference held by this famous scholar, Mary Evelyn Tucker, and her husband, John Grimm, at the Center for the Study of World Religions on the Environment. And the leader of this issue in the Islamic world has been Hussain Nasr, who has been writing quite a lot, actually, even before it became something which was in vogue for people to talk about. He has been writing about it for a very, very long time. He was supposed to give the plenary address, and he couldn't make it. So he said, "Why don't you send Noman?" And I was friends of his son, his Wali Nasr. Wali, he knew me through Wali, and he has been very kind to me. He says, "Ask Noman to do something," and I went and I gave a paper, and that was the day when I really got interested in this whole thing. In the meantime, Dale Jamieson, who is, I think, now in New York University, was compiling a volume which is called Blackwell Companion to Environmental Philosophy. And I had just attended a conference on animal rights at Harvard, and he asked me to write something for the volume, which I did. And then, of course, the chief good, the summum bonum, the high point of my work was this symposium that the American Academy of Arts and Sciences held at Harvard, and Daedalus, its journal, brought out a volume on ecology, and I have a long chapter in that. So that is the biographical account of my involvement in this. Now, what I have done is this: I have looked at the normative sources in the Islamic tradition. One of the things that has sometimes been said, and it is that this whole thing about the environment, these NGOs, these are Western ideas, and they are meant for creating ideological hegemonies and so on. And I found it a little sort of mistaken and almost absurd. And so I wanted to go into the normative sources, meaning the Quran and the Hadith, and the fiqh tradition, the legal tradition in Islam, and see what I can find. Now, I found through this a number of very, very interesting things. And I'll talk about the three normative sources, the Quran and the Hadith and the fiqh tradition. And one thing that I say in my writings, and I give sufficient evidence, and it is that there exists in the Quran no conceptual discontinuity between the realms of the divine, the realm of nature, and realm of humanity. There's no conceptual divide between them. And I also say that the scripture, the fundamental normative source, does not admit of a separation between the natural environment and the divine environment. So all is divine in a sense. And through that study, I isolated three notions: the notion of khilafa, vicegerency; the notion of amana, custodianship, trusteeship; and the notion of amr. Amr can be translated as universal law of nature. These are the three things. I related the notion of khilafa, vicegerency on earth, to the notion of the covenant in the Quran, where the human beings are asked about the lordship of God, and they admit the lordship of God. Alastu bi rabbikum, am I not your Lord? And they said, yes, you are, meaning that human nature is considered to be theomorphic. Human nature recognizes God. So therefore, the khilafa, the vicegerency of the earth, is through covenant, which admits the lordship of the Creator, meaning that human beings cannot arrogate to themselves any power to exploit, to disturb the natural environment. And in the Quranic text I found, and I cannot go into the details right now, and I'll finish in a few minutes, we will find a number of occasions where other creatures are mentioned. You do know that 31 out of 114 chapters are named after natural phenomena. Birds and ants and so on and so forth, and very explicitly the Quran talks about it. The notion of amr is very important, because for me amr is the inner principle of a thing whereby it takes its assigned role in the wider cosmos. So it is the amr of an egg to turn into a bird. It is the amr of a seed to turn into an oak tree. That is the amr. So in a sense, amr can also be in the naturalistic plane considered to be the law of nature, and that cannot be violated. So these are the three notions that I have talked about. I just want to make one remark, and it is that when I go to these dams in Pakistan, Tarbela and so on and so forth, I see the Quranic verse written on them, "Sakhara lakum ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard." God has made subservient to you whatever is in the heavens and the earth. It sounds so arrogant, because the rest of what the Quran says is not mentioned, and it is always coupled by something, as it is all from Him. It's all by His permission. This arrogance, which is like the Baconian arrogance, beat laws out of nature, the inductive principle which we have discarded in the scientific methodological considerations, beat nature to submission. That kind of thing is reflected ironically in that, because never has it been not coupled with some very humbling thing. It is due to Him. You don't have a right to arrogate. Who controls it? Your Lord controls it, and so on and so forth. But we'll get into that thing when I have a chance to talk to you. In the case of the Hadith, there are two principles that I found: the principle of Hima and the principle of Haram. Hima, consecrated wasteland, where you cannot build, which cannot sold, which cannot commercialize, right? Which is only meant for the environment and in an ethical perspective, which is good for the people. And you will be surprised. I mean, I don't speak, by the way, and I say this very clearly, I don't speak with any religious zeal at all. I speak as a scholar, as a humanist scholar. And the details of water courses and water rights and water distribution and canal digging and so on, they are enormous in the Hadith literature. You will be surprised. This is, going against the constructed reality in which we live. The constructions that we are embedded in. The animal rights issues come very often in the book of jihad. this is what you should do to your horse, this is what you should do to your camel, this is how they should dress, this is how they should eat. Things such as if even if in heaven somebody says, oh Lord, give me leave to plant a tree.
It has a little acoustic issue, and I also know we are trying to solve that, but because of the sound. My name is Adil Najam. I want to thank all of you for coming. I'm very glad to see so many people. I hope we'll get more. Thank you, Sohail. And the idea here is we actually want this to be informal. There's a reason why we are sitting here. There's a reason why I didn't start with a long thank you and then invite each one up. We want really this to be really a true conversation. We want this to be a conversation that reflects some of the things that are happening at LUMS, and I highlight the word some because, in fact, if I wanted to, I could do another event exactly with the same number of people tomorrow, but no one repeated. And that's been one of the great things, that we found a whole host of people around campus who are working on environment in various ways. And the idea of today, this event, and I'll talk about subs in a minute, is that we want to sort of build a platform, even if a virtual one, that brings together people from all across the campus, from all the 3 schools, from the various departments, whose work intersects with each other, to highlight the cross-disciplinariness of this issue. And it's not just this issue. My hope is that soon we'll do maybe one on health at LUMS, or maybe one on education at LUMS, because there are a lot of issues that are being talked across the campus, that are being talked about across the campus. And we want to capture that conversation. There are 2 or 3 things I wanted to say about this. First, I do want to thank Dr. Kareem, who is visiting us from the US as a Fulbright scholar and has already ignited great interest in lots of things. I've heard that he's been plotting programs and ideas and projects all over campus, and thank you for doing that. We hope to do a little more of that today, but in fact this event is very largely because of him, because he came to visit and we started talking, and before we were finished we thought, why not get a whole bunch of people who are working on the same issue together. I want to thank Tariq, our chair of biology in particular, for taking the lead in making this happen, for jumping at the idea, even though he knew it meant more work for him. And I wanted to thank Basharat, who is here and I'll talk more about later, who pulled this together. In terms of the substance, 2 things, and then I'll pass on to the context. As I said, the idea of having an event on environment is really to showcase to ourselves, to talk amongst ourselves about the various ways in which we are already working on and discussing issues related to the environment on this campus, and to hopefully bring the connections between us, but more importantly between us and all of you, in what people here are interested in, so that we can build on those connections in a more profound way. And I hope that will happen.